5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member, and thank you for holding this subcommittee. And of course, to Mr. Smith, again, it was an honor to introduce you, and I appreciate the great work you've done. We've had plenty of conversations, and I thank you for the conversation we had about holding capital to make sure that we could help farmers in need. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're here today to inform us. You know as well as I do it's been a really tough year, not just in Iowa, but farmers across the Midwest and the country. With low commodity prices, of course, the trade war that was just mentioned, we've harmed our export markets, devastating weather and flooding has occurred, and recently the propane shortage that's preventing farmers in Iowa from drying their harvest. So I've heard it time and time again. I visit every county every month, all 16. Whether I'm there or sitting in my office in Des Moines, folks are coming and say they just don't know if they're going to be able to hold out much longer. So I have serious concerns about the debt that we're seeing. Farm debt is projected to hit $416 billion this year. Unfortunately, the $19 billion of farm debt that Iowans have is the highest in the nation. And this level of debt absolutely has consequences. The Farm Bureau reports that farm bankruptcies rose 24% compared to a year ago, and a recent study from Iowa State University classifies 44% of Iowa farms as financially vulnerable. And I'm really grateful that you're here. I'm glad for the good work that you do to make sure that the farm credit system is safe and sound. However, you noted in your testimony that the farmers who are at the most risk are farmers who are dealing with major crop losses, and especially corn and soybean farmers like yourself and other Iowans. Those are my constituents, of course, and I'm concerned about the stress they're facing. So a little clarification. In your written testimony, Mr. Smith, you stated that the FCA encourages system lenders to work with borrowers to help navigate current financial conditions without jeopardizing long-term viability of borrower or the system institution. And I think identifying and working with farmers that are financially stressed is critically important, and I'm glad that the FCA is encouraging that. Can you describe to us, though, what that assistance looks like? I'd like a little more detail.
Thank you, Congressman Axne. The actual loan decisions and the risk that they're assuming is up to the individual associations. At FCA, we can offer guidance, but the actual decision is up to the associations. But you'll recall when there are natural disasters like the flooding, and I think we met for the first time last May to talk about the flooding that was the western part of your district and how catastrophic that was to farmers in that area. No different from wildfires, hurricanes, other natural disasters that we've had in other areas of the country. And what we can do is, through guidelines, encourage those associations. And we have, as the regulator, we have a lot of influence. We can encourage those regulators to be proactive in working with those farmers to come up with a plan and for the best possible solution. You've heard of foreclosures being up percentage-wise, and percentages, the numbers aren't alarming, but the percentage increases are. Foreclosure should be a last resort. I mean, it's just a tremendously trying, terrible thing for a rural family to go through. And so by exerting our influence through these guidelines, hopefully those associations will hang in there and maybe step up efforts, outreach finance efforts to those troubled families, but mainly encourage the associations to be proactive in working out a plan.
Okay. If you have an opportunity to provide us any more information down the road, what those associations might be doing specifically, I'd really appreciate that.
Certainly, certainly.
Next, I just want to ask you real quick. I recently read an article in the Wall Street Journal that outlined how some farmers in the Midwest are turning to alternative lenders due to mounting financial stress. And one such lender has noted their volume has grown over 40% in the last 3 years. While in some cases these loans can provide what is essential lifelines, I'm concerned that these farmers are borrowing at unsustainable high interest rates. And based on your knowledge and expertise, or anyone here, have you seen an increase in farmers going outside of traditional banks or the FCS for loans?
Yes, unfortunately, we have. And I describe them as maybe payday lenders because of some of the interest rates that have been charged, over half of prevailing rates. Right now, I feel we've got a good balance. The system is about, at 41%, I think is less than 1%, the same market share as what the commercial banks are. So we've got good alternatives out there between commercial banks and the system. FSA comes in there maybe at a lower level. FSA should be the lender of last resort. Unfortunately, isn't always, and these operators are looking to alternative sources because they have no choice. It's deeply concerning. It's deeply concerning the security interests that these alternative lenders are taking that might have an impact on long-term lending that the banks and the system might be holding as well. So yes, in answer to your question, we're seeing an increase, and it is a concern.
Thank you.